Hello and welcome again to DSLBD's District Capitalized Money Mondays. This is a weekly series where we talk about financing and financial management for DC businesses and DC residents exploring entrepreneurship. I'm Camille Nixon with the Innovation and Equitable Development team at DSLBD. If you should need translation now or when you're watching this on demand, we have those services available to you both in languages and as well as ASL. Please connect with us at 202-727-3900 so we can help you enjoy this session in your preferred language. A little bit about DSLBD, if you're not familiar with us, we're the DC government's agency that supports small and local businesses in the District of Columbia and the commercial corridors within which they operate. And specifically, I'm on the Innovation Equitable Development team, and we help businesses at all stages of development on such a variety of topics, including access to capital through our District Capitalized program and several products that we have, DC Kiva Fund, Made in DC grants, food waste innovation grants. We really are here to help you with all sorts of things with your business. We want you to consider entrepreneurship as a path to wealth and learn how to open, operate, and grow your business in the district. We have classes, we have times that you can meet with us one-on-one in person, on the phone, and tons of resources in our DC to a business toolkit. And when we send the slides, you'll be able to click through and get all this great information. This activity today is a webinar guidance provided through our District Capitalized program. As I mentioned, we also have other financing products through us or through our partners. We do a lot of referrals to products, grants, loans, lines of credit, guidance available from our partners like City First Enterprise and DC Green Banks. We also try to support that ecosystem, that network of providers and lenders so that you can turn to resources that are appropriate for your stage of business and financing needs. If you haven't already, be sure to sign up for our DC Business Funding Alert, and I'll drop that link in the chat in a little bit. That way you can get updates about funding opportunities, classes like this, and other resources and tools to help you fund and financially manage your business. Here's how you can reach me if you'd like. I am at Inno.ED at dc.gov, or through our booking site. You can book time to meet with me and drop in every Wednesday from 2 to 3. We have drop-in hours for you to talk about anything about financing for your DC business or DC business idea. We also are available weekly in person at the MLK Library at 901 G Street. If you haven't already, I encourage you to drop some information about yourself in the chat. We always have great connections made by businesses to other businesses who are looking to do similar things, or just learn about who's out there in the community and what you're doing for finance. So feel free to share your information in the chat. I'd now like to kick off the heart of our program. I'm really excited for this topic today. It's the beginning of Earth Month. We have Earth Days on the 22nd, but we celebrate sustainability all month long. And in particular, this is a great topic because you might be looking for ways to reduce cost or to reduce your footprint, which is both a smart move for the environment, for your pocket, but it's also for your branding. A lot of consumers are choosing businesses that are making social and environmental activities a priority for their business. And today we have Jeffrey with City First Enterprises and Matthew with DC Green Bank, who could talk to you about their respective organizations and some great products they're doing together to help you finance your green business project. So I'd like to first turn it over to Jeffrey Shepard. He's with City First Enterprises, CFE, who does all sorts of stuff with businesses. Green business projects are one of the things. They also have portfolios to help you with loans, lines of credit, also technical assistance, and they also often manage some of the grants administered throughout the city. So they're a great resource for your DC small business. Jeffrey, come on in. I'm going to stop sharing so you can share your screen and introduce yourself.
All right, great. Let's see. Can you see my screen? All good? All right. Well, thank you, Camille, and thank you to DSLBD for having me. I'm very excited to be presenting here alongside Matthew from the DC Green Bank. Again, my name is Jeffrey Shepard, and I'm a loan officer with City First Enterprises, also known as CFE. And I'll be giving you all a brief overview of our green financing and how we can help work with small business owners like yourself to finance your sustainability projects. My goal is to keep this pretty high level and brief so that there is time for questions at the end. So, if you have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat, or we can go over them at the end. All right. Sorry. There we go. All right. First, some background on CFE. We are a community development financial institution. That's an official certification. You can see it on the screen there. What does that mean? So CDFIs all share a common goal of expanding economic opportunity in low-income communities by providing access to financial products and services for local businesses and residents. And CDFIs can come in all shapes and sizes, so they can be for-profit or nonprofit. They could be banks, credit unions, loan funds. CFE, for example, is a nonprofit loan fund. We are headquartered in DC, and while most of our portfolio is in DC, we lend all over the DMV, including Montgomery and Prince George's County, as well as Baltimore. And so what does that all mean for you, right? Well, the fact that we are a CDFI, that we're a nonprofit loan fund, that we're headquartered in DC, all of this means that we are flexible lenders. And if you walk away from this presentation with one idea, I want it to be this idea of flexibility. So how are we flexible? Well, you might not have the greatest credit score, right? We look at that, but we look at each borrower holistically, right? So if there are marks on your credit score, we talk to you to understand, why that happened and what you've done to move on past that. So we do not let credit scores kill our deals. Maybe you have messy books. You might not necessarily have a background in accounting, right? We get borrowers like that all the time, and we have the expertise on staff to work through those issues with that, so we don't let that kill deals either. You might not have a lot of experience putting projections together. We'll definitely work with you on that, and we've done that with several borrowers in the past. And this flexibility stems from the fact that at the end of the day, we are mission-driven lenders, and the more that your project is aligned with our mission, the more flexible we can be. Like Camille was saying at the beginning, we are a multifaceted lender. We do a lot of different things, some of which you can see on the slide. So we do multifamily and commercial loans. We do loans for small businesses and community facilities. We do loans focused on renewable energy and energy efficiency. And of course, this green lending is the focus of today's presentation. And to provide this green lending specifically for small businesses, CFE has teamed up with the DC Green Bank. And we think this is an incredibly valuable partnership for DC's small businesses. Through it, CFE brings its expertise in small business and construction lending, while DC Green Bank brings its expertise in green energy and environmental policy. And together, we ensure that DC's small businesses have the resources they need to undertake these important projects. So I'm going to talk about two of the types of projects that we think are going to be the most popular. And after I go, Matthew might dive into these a little more deeply. Again, this is going to be a high-level overview. But the first type of project is the purchase and installation of rooftop solar array. So these loans could range from around 50 to 500,000. And again, there's some flexibility around those numbers. It's just a ballpark. And if there is a roof replacement component to the project, which you may need in order to install solar panels on your roof, we can bundle that into the same loan. These loans typically have a term of 5 to 7 years, with interest rates falling between 4 and 8%. And again, that's going to depend on the specifics of the project. And next, we have another popular project, which is your energy efficiency upgrades. These cover things like HVAC upgrades, double glazing your windows, replacing light fixtures, a bunch of exciting things. And then a lot of the terms are the same as for the solar projects. So these can range from around $50,000 to $500,000 and a term of 5 to 7 years, with interest rates falling between 4 and 8%. So what does the process actually look like if this is something that you're interested in pursuing? Well, once you come to us and you say you'd like financing for a project, I'm going to say, awesome, let's send you some forms to get the ball rolling. So you're going to fill out a loan application that tells us a little bit about your business and what you need the financing for. We'll have you fill out a credit authorization form. And we don't pull your credit until we're at the end of the process when we feel very confident that we're going to be able to make a loan happen. So that's not something that happens as soon as you submit your loan application. And then we'll want some information about the project that you want to undertake. And now at this point, you may say, I know I want to do one of these projects, but I'm not sure how much it's going to cost me or what my savings are going to be, or if it even makes sense for me to do this project. Do the savings make up for the costs? And we totally understand that. This is a new world for a lot of small business owners, and we are going to help you navigate that. And I know Matthew from DC Green Bank will share some resources for how to figure out if one of these projects is right for you after I'm done presenting. Um, Other things we'll want to see. So we'll want to see a construction budget, projections for the project and your business. You're usually going to get the information about the project, whether it's solar or energy efficiency, from the developer or contractor that you're working with. And oftentimes we can talk directly to the developer or contractor to understand the project. This is important because the number one question of any lender, of course, is how am I going to be repaid? That's the number one question, and we look to your projections to help answer that question for us. We will also want to see your business's financials to get an understanding of your historical performance and where you currently stand. And we want to know more about your personal financial position because oftentimes the owner of the business will be guaranteeing the loan. Usually it's our policy that any owner with 20% or more must personally guarantee the loan. Now, it's also incredibly important for you to understand the costs associated with financing your projects. All the time, I get small business owners that come to me and think that the loan amount is just going to cover the amount of, the construction or whatever project they're undertaking. But there are other fees associated with loans that you should understand. Of course, there's going to be the installation and construction costs. But your costs are going to be more than just that, right? Every lender is probably going to charge a fee. So understanding the fee going into it, there will be legal expenses. Oftentimes they're not too much, but they are part of it. And you generally want to understand what your equity contribution is going to look like. Again, that's going to depend on the project, but you should be prepared to put in, up to 20% of the project costs. Of course, we understand that this can all be intimidating and you may not come to us with a perfect application ready to go with perfect information about everything. Again, maybe your books are messy, maybe you're not super experienced creating projections, maybe you don't have a good grasp on what the costs of financing are, and you might not have a great idea of whether one of these projects is right for you or not. Once you're pre-qualified for a loan, CFE and the Green Bank will support you through the underwriting and closing process. Whether that means helping you fix your books or helping you get certifications or helping you with projections or maybe finding a developer or contractor to work with. We just see that as part of our mission and integral to our role as mission-driven lenders. So that was a little bit about CFE and its green financing. Thank you so much to Camille and DSLBD for letting me share with you all today. My email is on the slide. It's Jeffrey, although spelled with a G, at cfenterprises.org. And I'll make sure to go ahead and drop these links in the chat. And now I think Matthew from DC Green Bank is up.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeffrey. Let me see if I can share my screen here.
And while Matthew's queuing up his slides, thanks so much for that, Jeffrey. And I encourage everyone to keep dropping your questions in the chat. We'll be answering them at the end. Take it away, Matthew.
Oh, I'm going to try stopping for just a minute.
And we're back. We're going to transition now to hear from Matthew Hickman, who's from DC Green Bank, who works closely with City First Enterprises to help support DC businesses, including looking to explore green energy in their business and their projects. Take it away, Matthew.
Great. Thank you, Camille. And apologies to the audience there as I was trying to work through some of the technical difficulties. I think lesson learned, do the practice runs in the future. So my name is Matthew Hickman. I'm from DC Green Bank. I'm an investment associate on the team here. It's great to be here chatting with you all about the DC Green Bank and some of the products that we offer to hopefully help some of the initiatives that you all are working on with your small businesses. So just to get started here and tell you a little bit about the Green Bank and our story, as many of you might know, in 2018, DC set a goal to achieve 100% renewable energy and to cut our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2032. And that's a really ambitious goal. And increasing the speed that we are deploying renewable energy at, as well as the energy efficiency of our buildings and the vehicles that we use in our city are all going to be big parts of that goal. And so in recognizing that, the City Council, under the mayor's leadership, also established the DC Green Bank. And we were capitalized with $105 million originally in order to find projects that were going to help us meet these goals and to back them financially as a bank would, but really hitting back at that theme that Jeffrey mentioned on earlier of us having a specific mission, doing so in a way that is more borrower friendly than a lot of banks have historically been. And so you might see that come up a couple of different ways in the products that we're going to talk about. So we have three core values that animate a lot of the work that we do at DC Green Bank. The first is sustainability. So I mentioned that at the beginning, all in the service of meeting those ambitious targets that we set for the district of reducing our climate impacts. And at the same time, building up a clean economy. And so doing that work of increasing sustainability in a way that's going to actually create the jobs of the future and the jobs of tomorrow, whether that be solar construction jobs or clean transport operations jobs. There's a variety of different pillars there, but that's the second core value that we have. And then the third core value that we have is inclusive prosperity. So recognizing that as a bank, historically, there have been within DC, but also nationally, communities, especially Black and Brown communities, that have been discriminated against by lending institutions. Recognizing that and wanting to proactively serve those communities in the work that we do and make sure that, similar to the work that CFE does, our processes are really welcoming to borrowers at all levels of the economy, and that we're going to build a clean future for DC that includes all of its people. So those are our three core values. And right now, what we're doing is we're looking to take action in four different sectors, right? So the first one is solar power, which a lot of you probably know about, and it's one that I focus a lot of my time at DC Green Bank in. The second is stormwater retention, which is a little bit less known. And to tell you a little bit about that, we have, as a lot of folks probably know, a big problem with stormwater runoff into the Potomac and the Anacostia rivers in DC. And we have two different sewer systems that are in their own way is trying to mitigate that problem. So we have the MS4, which is most of the area west of the Anacostia River. But then we have the non-connected system, which is called the CSS. And we have a credit program for infrastructure that is going to retain stormwater runoff and allow projects to be built based on the strength of those credits. And so that's probably a really technical way of saying if you have property that has a lot of concrete on it and you replace some of that concrete with trees or with grass that can absorb water, we have a program in DC that can allow you to get credit for that. And we can finance projects that will help you do that. And so we've closed loans on one or two of those deals. And we look to continue to do that in the future. The third subject area that I mentioned a little while ago is green buildings. So, as Jeff said, it might not sound like the most exciting thing when you talk about making your building more energy efficient by, putting double pane windows or getting a more energy efficient HVAC system. But the dividends that that pays, both in climate terms and in your pocketbook over the long run, are really substantial. So what we do is we look to offer financing products that are going to make that jump to a more efficient system, whether for your business or for your home, more affordable, and it make more sense in the short run so that you can get started today rather than in the future. The last sector that we focus on is clean transport. So, electrifying our mass transit through partnerships with folks like WMATA, DC Circulator, but also on a more granular level, making sure that, the chargers that folks are going to need for battery electric vehicles are going to be available whenever you actually do make the jump, maybe as an individual. Those are the things that we're looking at. So that's a bit about the different sectors that we work in. And next, I wanted to chat a little bit about what phases of a project we might be interested in financing and how DC Green Bank can help you no matter where in the project lifecycle you're at. And so what you'll see here is a little diagram that I've drawn up to really just make the point that no matter where you are in your journey, in the project that your business might be interested in finding financing for, DC Green Bank has a product that might be able to help, right? So a lot of traditional lenders will look for as Jeff said a minute ago, a really well-developed project plan or budget. And at DC Green Bank, similar to CFE, we like to think that we separate ourselves from a lot of other lenders by not requiring that, right? And being willing to work with you no matter where you are. And so if you would like to get solar panels on the roof of your business and you don't know much more beyond that, we would be willing to help point you in the direction of resources that could, get you some bids for what that system might look like. And then we could put together quotes for a loan that can help you actually, bring that to bear without having to send a whole lot of money out the door and sink, all of your year's budget for your facilities into this. That's where we would come in, right? So we offer loans at each stage of the project cycle, be it pre-development, which is what I just described, or if you're getting close to the actual construction phase, or if you're already in the operations and maintenance phase, or you're nearing the operations and maintenance phase, we offer financing at each of those points. And not only do we offer financing at each of those points, but we're also willing to offer financing that can roll from one to the next, right? So you might think to yourself, okay, well, maybe DC Green Bank can offer me pre-development financing, but what am I going to do when I have to pay that pre-development loan once the project's done? Well, then we could simply convert that into another loan so that you're never going to be faced with a moment in time where you have to repay all of the project costs at once. And it would be paid for throughout the life of the project or the improvement that you want to make. So that is another way in which we like to think of ourselves as a little bit more flexible than typical commercial banks. And another one of the points that Jeffrey mentioned is, we don't expect people to have the background of a financial expert, right? So if you are not the strongest in accounting, or if your business doesn't have that much money on its balance sheet or in its operating budget, that's okay. And so we look at these projects as opportunities to help transition to a clean economy. And that's a big part of it. And so we look at the strength of the project and not just, how long you've been in business or how much money you're bringing to the table. That's what we have a lot of the capital for, and we have been given that mission to deploy it in service of those projects. Another point that I wanted to make on the slide is that, similar to what Jeffrey mentioned, we have more flexible terms than some other lenders. So something that you'll often see with DC Green Bank financing is we usually have as competitive or slightly lower interest rates than you might see from other banks, and longer terms especially, right? So for some loans and some lenders, you might see a solar loan, if they offer them at all, of maybe 5 years. In some cases, we offer loans of up to 15 years or even longer if the circumstances call for it. I think the last point that I want to mention on the slide here is that for a lot of folks, these are new kinds of projects that you're thinking about getting involved in. If it's solar on your rooftop, or hey, I'd like to explore the stormwater retention credit program, but I don't know where to begin. Even if it sounds good, how do I know if it's actually going to work out in the end? We're willing to start in kind of a piecemeal basis with borrowers. And in fact, we've set up a loan facility with City First Enterprises that's designed specifically for small businesses. So that gives you all as small business owners the confidence that you need in order to get started, even if it's with a small bite, just to dip your toes in the water of this new sustainable economy and see if it actually does make sense for you. And then hopefully, after you experience a successful project or two, expand the scope that you're working at, so that, if you started by saying, hey, you know what, I'd like to actually swap out the lighting in my system or in my building to something that's LED. I've got these old incandescent bulbs, and I know it's just been killing me on my energy bills, and I'd like to swap that out. And that goes well. Then later on, you might start to expand it and say, well, okay, now let's start thinking about solar or a new HVAC system that's going to be more efficient. So these are all options that we can explore, and we're willing to go at the speed that you are comfortable at. And I think that that's another way that we like to differentiate ourselves from traditional lenders, and that we're not going to push you to, maximize the budget for this project if that's not something that you're ready to do. So the last thing that I'll close on is just an example of some of the work that we've been doing. I mentioned that we offer pre-development loans, and last fall we actually announced a pre-development facility for Medici Road, which is a facility in Ward 7 that is going to help a local developer build 17,000 square feet of new mixed-use space. It's going to include 13 affordable condominiums, including their corporate headquarters. It's going to retain thousands of gallons of stormwater runoff, per storm event, and it's going to save residents thousands of dollars of electricity over the next year or over the next 10 years. And they've also committed to hiring local DC residents to work in the construction and at this building once it's complete. And we think it's really emblematic of the kind of work that we're trying to do at DC Green Bank. So I'll pause there for now and say I didn't actually include my email address here, but I'll be sure to put it in the chat. And if there are any questions, we'd be happy to hear them or engage with you all one-on-one if there are any questions about DC Green Bank and the kinds of products that we offer. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Matthew. I am energized, and I should tell you, I had a previous experience with helping businesses consider how they can green their operations. And always people think it's not possible, it's very hard to start, but there's so many small ways that you can start. You just heard from Matthew that DC Green Bank can help you think through those. I also drop in the chat a resource to another organization that's had rebates. The DC Sustainable Energy Utility has some great rebates to help with changing lightings. But through CFE and through DC Green Bank, they can guide you through your thoughts about your project for your specific commercial space. And if you're leasing your space and it's your property owner who needs to make the changes, it's very advantageous for them to do so now. DC, as many areas do, have a lot of vacant spaces available, and making your space an attractive place for you and for other tenants is a priority. And having a space that's efficient energy-wise means your bill that you have to pay for will be lower. It also makes it attractive to your customers I mentioned at the top of the call. And I put some information about a sustainable DC plan, which is a guide on ways to make our city green and more sustainable in a variety of ways, including energy, However, there's also some laws coming along with that, which means in time, slowly but surely, we're building up to the requirements that certain commercial spaces have to have, demonstrate that they are energy efficient and have water conservation. So those are coming online very slowly, but this is the time if you're thinking of making a change in construction, or your space or your landlord is, this is the time to make those choices and make it a sustainable choice, because at some point in the future, you will have to make that choice. Why not take advantage of this great resources, both for guidance and financing products through CFE and DC Green Bank. And I'll just drop the information in the chat about the other resources mentioned, as well as the DC Department of Energy and Environment. They're our sister agency that looks at all things sustainability and green and energy for the city. And they have a great page for small business resources that you can go through and check out those. I'm going to jump back to my slides for a quick second, just to share some other updates that might be of interest to you before we jump into the question and answers. So here's some information. We often get this question. We hear about loans and people are like, where are the grants? So there are grants out there. I just want to share that grants are very specific for certain activities. There are grants that come out that do encourage or prioritize doing things to improve the environment. We just had one closed recently about food waste innovation through my teammate at DSLBD, Caroline Howe. So this is information. The easiest thing to do is sign up for the DC Business Funding Alert, and we can share that information with you. A quick plug about next week's Money Monday. We're listening to another lender, WAKIF, which is the Washington Area Community Investment Fund. They have microloans, lines of credit, and wraparound technical assistance to help you with your financing. So check us out next week, same time, 2 p.m. For a Money Monday. And coming up not too long from now, about 3 weeks from now, is our big Access to Capital Expo called the DC Equitable Access Expo, Wealth Building for DC Businesses and Residents. It will be featured webinars and consultations on April 27th, May 2nd, and May 4th in person at MLK Library. And I hope to have CFE and DC Green Bank there as well. So check it out. You can sign up to get event alerts at this website right here, DSLBD Eventbrite. So let's jump into the questions. I queued up a couple from the chat. Please drop them in the chat. I did not figure out how to unmute people one by one, so we'll just have all the questions come through the chat. And I'll try to see if I can see how to help people who are on the phone ask their questions. So the first question came in, I think it was for CFE, but Matthew, you might want to answer as well. So are you looking at personal and business credit when you're considering these financing these projects?
Sure. So I can try to tackle that first. So like I said in our presentation, we do take a pretty holistic approach to looking at your application. So that includes personal and business credit. So, you may have an 800 credit score, which is great. I aspire to be that. But we're still going to take a look at, your business financials. We want to understand your financial position. Again, looking at it holistically, looking at it in conversation with you. But we're going to look at both of those things just as a lender to understand how it all fits together and how we can make it happen. We're also going to look at the specifics of the project. So, if you're spending a ton on electricity, a ton on heating, and this project is going to save you a lot of money, that's going to help your business credit too. That's going to help your ability to repay. Again, the number one question of any lender is, how am I going to be repaid? So if that is clear and we can get to an understanding about that, we're going to proceed, but it does involve looking at both personal and business credit, yes. Matthew, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, no, I think that covered it. Thanks,
Okay.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. And then the next question up is, so can I use the program for home since I have a home-based business?
So from CFE's end, we do not typically finance improvements to personal residences. I don't know, Matthew, if the Green Bank has any products in line for that as of yet.
We don't, and I am glad that this question came up because I realized something I said in my remarks might have muddied the waters a little bit. So unfortunately, at this point, we can't offer consumer loans or loans to individuals for improvements that you might make, to your home, for example. We are actively exploring ways to make that possible through some partnerships with different local financing institutions, but we haven't yet announced anything. So it is a restriction in our statute, unfortunately. But if we can find someone to partner with in the local community, then we would love to get to a place where that is an option, but not yet, unfortunately.
Thanks for that. I did drop right now in the chat a link to the Department of Energy and Environment. It's actually a link to their business section, but overall they also have information about helping residents. So maybe if you can't go at it as a business owner operating from your home, maybe you can pursue it as a resident just for your home in general. So check out the Department of Energy and Environment for that information, as well as the DC Energy Utility. They do have rebates for residential improvements as well. Okay, let's see. And the next question, are there funding opportunities specifically for women-owned and or minority-owned small businesses?
That is a great question. Not that I know of specifically for green financing. It might be a better question for you, Camille, if you know anything through DSLBD or DEMPED. But I would have to think about that one.
Yeah, I do. And I shared the link, or it'll be in the slides that I'm sharing, the page with all the grant links. There is a link for our partner, the DC Women's Business Center, has a great list of grants for women-owned businesses. And there are many grants and others financing that may have a focus on BIPOC or persons of colors operating in small businesses in DC as well as women. But so you can just subscribe to the funding alert to get that information. Our DC Business Toolkit, I'll put that in the chat. And then the slide where I'm sharing the grants should have that information as well. And some of them come on and off, so you just have to keep looking to see what's coming online. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is a question. Curious how Medici, I might be misspelling this, Medici Road, might be an example of stacked funding, how DC Green Bank played into coordinating with the other players. The person posting that they received crowdfunding money as well as DC Leaf money from DMPED. Matthew and or Jeffrey are familiar with the Medici Road project and can give any information about how they stack their funds to make that happen?
Sure, yeah. So you're right, it is a great example of fund stacking, and it was coming from a variety of sources, including from the developer themselves. And the way that we view fund stacking is that it's really the ideal, right? Because I mentioned at the outset that we were capitalized with $105 million in our founding legislation. That's a lot of money to me, and I imagine that's a lot of money to most of us on this call. But when we think about the size of the problem that we're facing and the size of the changes that we need to make in DC, it's actually not that much. And so if we have any hope of meeting the goals that we've set for ourselves over the next 10 years, we absolutely need to draw in funds from other institutions, other businesses. And so we really look for opportunities to deploy our money into deals where it's going to be the difference maker. And you might have other folks who are coming along and bringing their money alongside it in a project, but there's some piece of the puzzle that only an institution like ours could fill, whether it might be taking on a risk that most others don't want to take on, or something like that. That's where we see ourselves as really playing the best role, is being a piece of the overall puzzle in the capital stack, but really unlocking a much larger piece of the pie from private investment, from other government investment, whatever the case may be. And so we were really excited about that being the case with this particular project.
Thanks for that, Matthew. And I'll see if I can put in the chat before we wrap up. If not, I'll be in the email. A couple of weeks ago, we did Money Mondays with City First Enterprises to talk about how they did capital stacking there's a grant, from us, there's a collateral support program from another agency, DSB, and then CFE funds are all combined together to help someone purchase a property so they can build it out and expand their business. So it wasn't a green specific project, but to the example shared by Caroline and as Jeff was explaining, you probably will have to stack various parts of funds together. The larger the project is, the more likely you'll have to stack. And the good news is that a lot of our partners like CFE and Green Bank already work together and work with our companion sister agencies like DSB who provide collateral support, and DSLBD who has some financing through grants and crowdfunding through DC Kiva, that we all work together to try and make it possible. And all of us are offering the technical assistance guidance because you think, oh my gosh, how do I do all this? You're not the first business to think of this, and they've had lots of experience working businesses through their various situations, which are all customized depending on what you're trying to do. But we're here to help you think through those options and be encouraged that it's possible to finance these. So the next question comes in from, oops, I just lost my place. Here we go. Do you provide, this might be for you, Jeffrey, do you provide short-term financing for a project that has an approved contract or purchase order?
That is a great question, and without knowing more of the specifics around it, it's hard for me to answer that definitely. You know, it would depend on how short-term the short-term financing we're talking about is, but would definitely encourage you to reach out and we'll figure out together what exactly your financing need is and try to figure out a financing solution for it. But without more details, it's hard for me to say.
And there are some local lenders who do have lines of credit, which might be a solution. I'll share the link for the list of local lenders, including CFE, that may have a solution for that. And I think it might be the last question. My colleague Cynthia is on the line. Thanks for joining, Cynthia. If you could look to see if there's additional questions that I missed, but I think the last one that came through the chat is about financial capability for government proposal requirements. Do you provide support to small businesses in that regard? This is, do you provide support for financial capability to do government proposals? Because this is a challenge for them.
So that's another one where I'd need a little more specifics. You know, generally where we've encountered that, it's a business that needs to either have a letter of credit from a bank certifying that they have the capability to you know, pay their subcontractors, or they need a line of credit. Those two often get confused, letter of credit versus line of credit, or they need a line of credit to demonstrate that they could draw down on that to pay you know, whoever they need to. So in the past, we certainly have you know, worked with borrowers who, you know, are submitting proposals or, you know, have had a proposal accepted and have been, you know, awarded some funds that do need a line of credit in order to proceed. And we have worked with those borrowers in the past, but again, would love to learn more about the specific situation.
Thank you. Go on.
I was going to say, I was also scrolling through the chat and I found a question from Jean saying, does the project have to be in DC to obtain financing or grants? And the answer to that question is no. So we do CFE partners with Montgomery County Green Bank. So if you had a project that you wanted to pursue in Montgomery County, we would figure out you know, a solution with our friends across the border that way. And I know there's some flexibility from the DC Green Bank about boundaries. I'll let Matthew speak to that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. It's actually really fun that question came up on this call because one of the great things about our partnership with CFE is that it allows us to invest in projects outside of DC specifically. So, you know, I mentioned a minute ago our founding statute. Another one of the restrictions that it places on us is that we can't be the only lender in a deal for the long term if it's outside of DC. And so by partnering with institutions like City First Enterprises, we can then invest in projects outside of the district. And so that's something that we're actively looking to do. Jeffrey and I have been discussing a couple of different opportunities. And we would love to hear about projects that are going to benefit DMV more broadly, that we might be able to use our new partnership with them for.
Yeah, and Gene did follow up with me privately asking about Baltimore. That might be a little far for DC Green Bank, but CFE would certainly be interested in learning more. And Baltimore is part of our geography, so definitely reach out about that, Gene.
And I have another question that came in offline. If coming to DC Green Bank for pre-development financing, how much time should they anticipate it will take to be pre-approved? And how soon should they come to DC Green Bank for the pre-development financing? So a two-parter. How much time to get approved and how much lead time to come to you for pre-development financing?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of those answers where it's highly dependent on the nature of the deal and how responsive we both are to one another. But I would say, how quickly to get approved. Probably 1 to 2 months in the best case scenario. And then for the lead time, maybe another month or two beyond that. And that's, again, where we're operating efficiently. If things come up, as they often do in the project, that can draw the timeline out. For projects over a certain size, we actually have to ask our board for approval, and they operate on a bi-monthly meeting schedule. And that can often impact the timeline. So, I would say from the beginning of the process to approved and we're sending funds out the door, probably 90 days for the shortest. And then in other cases, maybe closer to 6 months if it's a more involved project or, there are other things that need to be taken into consideration.
I would also add to that, it's always best to start talking to your lender before you think you need to start talking to your lender. Just for that exact reason. And, part of the reason is we had folks that reached out to us a month ago, and now we're working on those deals. So when you come to us, there's already a bunch of deals on our plate. I'm sure Matthew is super busy right now with deals that he's been working on. So always begin the conversations early. And even, like I mentioned during my presentation, even if you don't have everything 100% figured out, or even, 80% figured out, reach out, get yourself on our radar. All sorts of communication helps.
That is so true. Earlier is better. And as we learned early in the pandemic, having that relationship with a lender earlier on, even if you're not going for the financing right away, is super helpful because you're able to call upon them in a shorter time frame because they've already gotten to know you a little bit. And luckily with local lenders like CFE, they have, and DC Green Bank as well, they mentioned that the guidance beyond the actual paperwork applying for the funding, they have guidance to help you kind of think through the project and get ready for that application to come through. So you're in luck with having local lenders who do have more than just the processing. They actually have the support. And if you do need further support developing components of your application, like maybe a business plan, or your financials, we also have resources through DSLBD and referrals to some partners who could help you with that as well. And we have another.
Camille, I see another
yes.
question.
Oh, great. You want to read it off? This is Cynthia talking. Thanks, Cynthia.
Hello, I'm Cynthia, guys. Hello.
Hi.
Yes, I'll read it off. Are you interested in projects such as hydroponic gardening in DC to improve nutrition and impoverished neighborhoods and self-sustaining projects?
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, I'm interested in that. I don't know if that would quite fall under the DC Green Bank's umbrella, but CFE also has an interest in, healthy food financing. So definitely reach out to that and would love to learn more about that project. It sounds very exciting.
Yeah, I would agree, Jeffrey. I think, it's one I haven't heard before, but it sounds really mission aligned. And I was just as you were speaking, trying to think of ways that we could make sure it falls into our mandate. So, the example that came to my mind as a guy that works on solar a lot is if it's a hydroponic farm, I know those take a lot of energy. And if we could find a way to power that with solar panels, then, there's a pretty clear case that we could make, but would love to learn more, I guess is the short answer.
Yeah, we can get creative.
I love that. I was thinking it might be a no, but it's definite positive possibility, if not yes. So that's awesome. And I'll be dropping in the chat right now a link to DSLBD, the Inno.ED team that I work with, when Cynthia and I work with. We have times where you can meet and talk about your business idea and how to pivot. And we have Caroline Howe on the team who does a lot of work around urban agriculture, food, which might be a good fit for you to have a conversation with her to explore that business idea in general. So I'll drop that in the chat. I think we might be at the end of questions. Oh, yeah, Caroline, I think Caroline's on the line right now. Awesome. Caroline, did you want to step in and add anything to what I just shared? Or maybe not. Okay.
She probably can't unmute herself though.
Oh, that's right. And I apologize to everyone and that we're just limited to chat questions. I set this meeting up a little bit differently than usual, and I seem to be limited to how people can communicate. I'm looking for any final questions, and also one last try to, I'm going to try something crazy. I'm going to mute all of us at once, so don't start singing. And then if you have a question, please speak up. Just because I'm not sure, especially for callers who might be on the phone, I'm not sure how you can do a question without putting in the chat. So here we go. Let's see. This could be a help or
Caroline said
disaster.
something before you put us on mute.
Oh, okay.
She said that she can't unmute herself, but she's excited to speak with anyone about your green business ideas.
Okay, awesome. And let me actually, I can promote her. Actually, let me just unmute everybody, and then that would be the solution. Okay, Caroline, I think you should be able to speak. I also just made you a panelist, which also might help you be able to speak.
Ooh, there we go. Hello.
Yay.
I'll turn.
Go for it.
Thank you so much for this presentation to all of our presenters and to folks who are getting new business ideas started. If you want to talk through the business idea before heading to one of these funders, do set up an appointment with us. Camille dropped that link into the chat. You can also just send an email to inno.ed@dc.gov so we can talk through that idea and some ways to get you ready to be able to then apply to look at some financing from these incredible partners. So hope you'll reach out, whether it's about hydroponics, whether it's about thinking about improving the efficiency of your existing operation or starting a new business that might be helping other businesses improve their energy efficiency, their water efficiency, or any other part of their operation. So hope to hear from some of you in the coming weeks.
Thanks so much, Caroline. I'm glad you're able to jump in and share that. So I think that's it for questions through the chat. And I think you should all have the option to unmute if you wanted to ask any final questions while we're waiting for that. Jeffrey and Matthew, a big thank you to both of you. Any final words that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, just thanks for the opportunity. I can't wait to do one of these again, and hopefully we'll have some case studies from these folks in the chat that we'll reach out to and hopefully have some to discuss the next time around.
Yeah, second in Jeffrey's thoughts there. Thank you all. Really appreciate the questions and excited to hear about some of these ideas that everyone has. And so look forward to continuing to engage, and please feel free to reach out.
And thank you both. I love this topic in general. I love that the collab is fab, that CFE and Green Bank has been working together on this particular way of financing. I hope your takeaway is that whatever idea you have about greening your business operations, the space that you're in, the building that you're operating or for your clients. Explore how you can get the project moving forward through City First Enterprises, DC Green Bank, and DSLB's Inno.ED team. As you just heard from Caroline, we're here to help you to explore that idea and help you get moving for financing. We'll be sending out the slides and the recording as well as the information from the chat with everyone this week. Join us again for our next Monday next week. And also check out City First Enterprises and DC Green Bank for their financing and green project support. I thank you all, and I wish you a great afternoon.